Many things have often been asked and wondered about carvations, and usually with very limited answers. That is why I have taken it upon myself to research a few subjects for discussion and elaboration within these pages. To my knowledge, no other carvation has ever compiled this much carvation knowledge into one volume, so this is probably the first of its kind. I encourage you to enjoy learning something about us magical creatures that you may not have known, and perhaps ask some more questions afterwards to be looked into. Signed, the author Appa. Chapter 1. Life Cycles and Instincts. Section 1.1. Lifespan. Carvations have an extensive life cycle when compared to any other living thing except for trees. They stand the only formidable match for withstanding the test of time. The life of a carvation can stretch on indefinitely, actually, if it so wished. Let's examine carvation life from its very beginning, a very good place to start. When an egg is produced by a carvation, there's a nesting period that can last from a few weeks to an entire year for the mother and egg. This appears to be a natural maternal instinct that female carvations will always do for their young, and sometimes mates as well. Eggs take on average about 5 months to a year to hatch. After the egg is hatched, the parents will begin the aging process again. When the offspring matures to be about 270 years old, the parents will die, and soon after the offspring will cease aging when they reach to be about 300 years old. When the offspring has finished the aging process, it is now actually fully mature enough to find a mate and reproduce. Now, the next stage of a carvation's life is usually dedicated to finding the right mate, but the process can take centuries to complete. Mates are typically interested in numerous physical attributes such as uniqueness, wider hips, healthiness, and attitude. After mating, the female carvation should produce an egg about 3 weeks to 2 months after. When the offspring hatches, the parents begin aging again, and the cycle starts anew. Section 1.2. Nesting. One of the most interesting phenomena that carvations go through is nesting. It's one of a carvation's most natural instincts, and has been traced back to when carvations lived in big nests on the ground instead of in houses under roofs. While the urge is most strong in females, male carvations have also been known to do this. A female carvation will attempt to nest on average 2 to 4 times a month, while a male one will attempt on average 2 times every 3 months. Nesting urges generally last about 3 days to a week. A carvation will use whatever materials are readily around them at the time in order to make a nest. Household items include blankets, pillows, bed sheets, couch cushions, curtains, and towels. It's urged not to interrupt the nesting process or dismantle the nest until the urges have passed within the carvation. Attempts to do so will likely result in territorial aggression by the carvation and increase risk of injury significantly. If a carvation in your household is nesting, leave them at peace and wait for their episode to pass. Helping them build it could even allow you to occupy it with them, but do not overstep the boundaries. Section 1.3. Carvation eggs. Baby carvations hatch out of eggs, which are laid by mother carvations. Each egg has multiple layers of protection to keep the baby carvations safe in even the most extreme of situations, from frozen tundras to sweltering volcanoes. Eggs are composed of a material that is similar to that of reinforced versions of the scales of various reptilian carvations. The exact material is being looked into on what it is and how it forms in development. As said before, carvation eggs take 5 months to a year to get ready to hatch. Carvations instinctually break from their eggs using unfocused, uncontrolled magic to burst out. If a baby cannot break out for any reason, a doctor can easily break the egg using precise or special tools. Do not attempt to break the eggshell yourself, as you could potentially hurt the infant inside. Chapter 2. Physical Attributes. Section 2.1. Traits. Carvations have many varying physical attributes that separate them from any other known being. There are dozens of traits that differ among carvations and diversify them all from each other. From specific to general, let us explore some of these traits. One of the most numerous and widely explored attributes of a carvation is the variant of them. The variant of a carvation describes what kind of animal the body mimics at birth. Because carvations are some of the oldest living things alive, they have observed millions of years go by, but it is not yet known why carvations share traits with animals found in the human world. There are numerous scientific theories, namely the Carter-Bridge theory of mutual evolution and the Hashing theory of primal mating, but no written records were recorded so far back that we might have an answer. In mating, though, a baby carvation's variant will be dependent upon mainly the mother, but the father might also be able to pass on his variant in rare cases. Most physical traits are dependent upon the variant of carvation, such as wings, tail, and horns. Carvation variants might not even be of animals in the human world, though, as some may exhibit traits of mythical creatures and beings. Some carvations are exempt from being bound by variants entirely, though, and are a mix of various inherited features and are categorized as chimera variants. Chimera variants are almost unheard of being passed on to the child unless mating with another chimera variant. This variant is caused by genetic mutation that disrupts the DNA of the variants of both parents, causing an odd combination of features from two or more variants. Contrastly, a carvation which exhibits zero animal-like features is known to be a dead variant, which is almost never known to pass on, even in the face of another dead variant mate, for the presence of any other variant DNA in genetics will override it. The subject of these two is still being looked into today. The next matter would be the subspecies of a carvation. The subspecies generally has a group of specific phenotypes that accompany them. There are two main subspecies known as subspecies A and subspecies B respectively. In those general words, the subspecies will be determined in an offspring, most often dependent upon the gender at birth. Subspecies A is most common among females, while subspecies B is most common among males. That is not to say that either gender couldn't exhibit either subspecies though, or appear to exhibit traits of both subspecies in rare cases. Traits associated with subspecies A include horns on the head and or spikes along the surface of the body, a narrower face, pointed ears, and typically exhibit red or green eye color. The traits associated with subspecies B include rounder faces and ears, softer facial features, and yellow, gray, or blue eyes. Section 2.2 Vision. Unlike most creatures, the lens of a carvation eye does not harden with age, which means the retina does not have a troubled time focusing as the carvation gets older. So a carvation at age 100 will have the same vision as the same one at age 1000, unless damage was to occur to the ocular region to impair the vision. In the event of this, standard glasses or contact lenses can still be found for carvations, but the lenses can never fully restore the vision they once had. Carvations possess incredible eyesight that rivals that of most human birds. Carvations are able to see about 6.5 miles, or 10.46 kilometers, in clear skies. Because carvations used to be natural apex predators to every animal, this eyesight was used when hunting and giving chase to prey. Uniquely, there are no cases of carvation eyesight degrading over time, and there has been extensive research into investigating exactly why. Section 2.3 Wings. While not every carvation has wings, they are important to the ones who do. The wings of a carvation have a curious relationship to their magic actually, for the wings connect directly into the arc pines in their back. The wings appear to take a direct source of magic from the body in order to gain extra support in staying aloft. They also presumably use magic in order to shrink down at will when the carvation demands it. A carvation with their wings removed isn't unheard of if it has been injured beyond repair, and there are several recovery options. Physical therapy is essential for a carvation to regain their natural sense of balance without the wings. Prosthetic wings are also common for carvations to have as well. Curiously, a carvation with only one wing can still fly with the help of a prosthetic one because of the magic in the working one. Wing injuries and infections are no small offense to the body, so make sure to take care of your wings and report to your doctor and resolve any issues before they cause permanent damage. Chapter 3 Biology. Section 3.1 Magic. Magic is perhaps the most miraculous gift that carvations possess. There is no record of a pureblood carvation lacking magic upon birth, so it is a connection that binds all carvations together. But what of its function in the body? Magic in the body circulates throughout the body like blood and is actually in the bloodstream. Carvation blood cells have a protein in them called maggoglobin, When blood circulates through the back, it passes through the arcpines, which filter magic and purifies it, releasing it back into the blood for circulation. There are 2 arcpines in a carvation, each below the shoulder blades on each side of the back, right where the wings should be planted whether a carvation has them or not. When food gets eaten, a nutrient in it is absorbed and sent to the arcpines for storage, where magicglobin in the body will absorb it and distribute it throughout the body's cells and allow a carvation to use magic. While a lack of magic in the body will not negatively impact it, malnutrition will result in the body lacking the proper nutrition to use most magic, including even the most basic spells. Though the magic each carvation can use is mostly shared among them, there are special cases. The basic magic that every carvation can use is teleportation and shapeshifting magic to traverse, land easily, and change their body. Some carvations have higher magicglobin amount, making their magic stronger, but also requiring them to eat more to sustain their power. On the other side, some have a lower amount of magicglobin, making their spells weaker in nature and usually resulting in an excess of magic buildup in the arcpines. Some carvations have an affinity towards specific kinds of magic, which is still being studied with interest. Some believe it is as simple as having a genetic factor, but there's little evidence that it is passed down through genes. Another theory is that it can depend more upon how they were raised. This nature versus nurture debate has been going on for hundreds of years. The most popular theory, though, suggests that it has to do with the developing mind of the carvation somehow. Further research is being done into this phenomena, but the undeniable fact is certain that some carvations have a natural magic affinity. Section 3.2 Health and Nutrition. The diet of a carvation is notorious for having to be higher in calories than that of any human. Due to their high metabolism and high demands in nutrition for magic and the needs for high blood sugar, carvations are forced to consume high calorie and high sugar foods. Carvation fruits and naturally grown foods are very high in these, and were categorized and named by an early carvation botanist who later became an early musician as a monk in a monastery. Should a carvation sustain themselves on human food, they would need to eat 2 to 4 times as much as a normal human in order to sustain their recommended amount of nutrients. As a result, the carvations will weigh on average about 200 pounds, or 90.72 kilograms, to 210 pounds, 95.25 kilograms. An interesting fact is that though some humans have evolved to retain the protein lactose in their adulthood, this has not taken place at all for carvations as of yet. Past their infancy, all carvations are lactose intolerant and cannot safely digest most dairy products. In fact, lactose is partially toxic to mature carvations to the point where they risk hospitalization upon excessive consumption. While most carvations would simply avoid dairy altogether, lots of carvations consume lactose-free foods safely and still reap its benefits. Carvations in their healthiest state are definitely heavier than normal human, and should they fall too far underweight, they would have negative consequences. If a carvation falls too far underweight and becomes malnourished, there can be grave and potentially permanent side effects. Negative side effects can include, but are not limited to, restriction or loss of magic due to a deficiency of magicglobin in the blood and magic in the arcpines, loss of flight if in possession of wings, and most other dangers associated with malnourishment of humans. Because carvations have such a higher metabolism than humans, they are at higher risk of falling underweight though, so it is important to monitor yourself and make sure you're not in the danger zone, or find a doctor if you think you might be. A balanced diet is important, even in magical beings. Section 3.3 Half Carvations. Since humans and carvations so often are around each other, 2 of these different races might want to conceive a child together. You may be asking yourself if this is biologically possible. Possible, yes. Predictable, far from. Humans, or Homo sapiens, and carvations, Homo primus, are part of the same genus and have the option to be able to mate. While these half carvations aren't too uncommon, they are considered to be unpredictable in the world of genetics. Because only one mate is carvation, both dominant and recessive traits can manifest in the half-bloods. Half carvations have a higher chance of being chimera variants and developing conditions related to arcpine failure. These half carvations usually possess little to no magic, have the metabolism and eyesight of a normal human, a bit less of the strength of a normal carvation, have a higher risk of infertility. Half carvations are at higher risk of dangerously high blood pressure and various magic-related illnesses within the body. So make sure that if your child is one, or if you are one, check up with a carvation doctor every month. Chapter 4 Culture. Section 4.1 Names. Carvation names have a special significance beyond merely just identity. While a Carvation's name has no magical or biological significance, obviously, it holds paramount communal significance. If you observe, Carvations do not possess surnames, and when two Carvations are in a community with the same name, they are often given titles or nicknames instead, such as Hera the Seamstress or Lazy Cassidy, to elaborate on specifics. Because names have such an important communal significance, a Carvation sharing a name with a past Carvation is like carrying a legacy in the name. For instance, if there was a legendary baker named Tempo at one point, another Carvation that was born and named Tempo might have expectations to carry on their baking torch. The bequeathing of names is also known to happen if a Carvation is still alive, to give permission for their legacy to be carried on through name. The entire cultural phenomena of the passing of legacy with names and the distinct lack of surnames isn't unique to Carvation by any means, as many humans have done the exact same thing at one point or another, but it is surely an occurrence to keep in mind when taking a look at Carvation culture as a whole. Section 4.2 Soul Sharing. The Carvations have an ancient ritual passed down through generations known as the Soul Sharing Ceremony. Soul sharing is the process of binding two souls together and forging the deepest bond there is between two living beings. For Carvations, it is a permanent oath to never separate, and is a sign of two lovers. The soul sharing ceremony is very similar to the human ceremony of a wedding. The two Carvations must exchange a set of written vows before then sharing a piece of themselves. This may take the form of an object, music, or another set of vows, but it must be something that is paramount to who they are. When these steps of the ceremony are taken, the two lovers kiss and their souls fuse. When two beings' souls fuse, they deposit a little bit of themselves in their partner's very being. This may include the sharing of tendencies, habits, cravings, psychological or physiological conditions, urges, emotions, and personality. Because these beings are bound by their very life essence, if one is to expire, the other will as well very soon after. This ultimate action of bondage is why the soul-sharing ceremony is known as a lover's vow. It is unknown who first concocted this ceremony, but its first use was actually not as a lover's ceremony at all. In fact, it was far from one. It is said that it was first used to trick a powerful Carvation into falling in love with a human woman and binding their souls. Then this woman was tragically killed to prevent the Carvation from wreaking more havoc across the living world. Though because Carvations are notoriously peaceful creatures, the validity of this legend is up to speculation. It's mostly considered an old wives' tale these days. Section 4.3 Spirituality. The faith of the Carvations is an interesting one for sure, with an uncertain history that has some interesting theories. What we do know for sure is from written records and accounts from more recent times. What we can only speculate on is tales told by word of mouth since long ago. A lot of faith is tied to the afterlife, though. It is said that long before Carvations were what they were today, they in fact had no immortality, but had immense magical strength unheard of today. A group of these Carvations used these powers to create the temple and the magic within. The temple we have today contains within it a collection of magic that creates a consciousness inside, and gives all Carvations their immortality. We don't know why Carvations lose immortality upon laying eggs, but we are still looking into it. When Carvations die, their magic is actually absorbed into the temple to be a part of the larger collection inside. This in turn keeps the other Carvations immortal and the temple long and prospering. There is an interesting ritual that the temple engages in that no Carvation has been able to fully understand, though. When the human afterlife has no protector, the temple chooses a pair of Carvations to watch over it. It is also unknown what criteria the temple uses to determine these Carvations, as there is not enough records of any other protectors. When the rules that come along with the afterlife are broken, though, the temple has been known to punish those responsible, which leads to some fearing it. Nonetheless, it is a pivotal figure in the Carvation life and culture that is essential to their beliefs and survival. Section 4.4 Settlements. Carvations are social creatures, and don't usually do well with surviving on their own. Like humans, they traditionally need companionship or at least other Carvations to achieve a sense of fulfillment from life. From that, one might assume there are numerous Carvation settlements, but there is actually only one main known one currently, which resides in the clouds and is known as the Village. While at one point small Carvation settlements could be seen all around the earth, many of them were abandoned in favor of retreat to the Village, where Carvations do not have to worry about humans or the harsh conditions of the planet. The Carvation who founded the village has been long lost to time, but it still serves as a large congregation of Carvations in any realm. The village mirrors what a traditional rural human town might look like, but with greenery growing around the ground instead of old uninhabitable buildings, although there's a couple of those. Because of the town's rich history, you can see distinct development in architectural style as you follow the town's expansion path. One interviewed human described it as like a regular human town but from another world. Magical to me, but probably super boring to everyone living here. Occasional small Carvation settlements are found, but they are typically better classified as towns with higher Carvation population mixed in with humans. There's talk of a pure Carvation settlement somewhere in the more secluded parts of the earth, but none have been officially found, likely concealed to prevent humans from spotting them. Section 4.5, Language. A very intriguing part of the ancient Carvation history that is still well documented is the Carvation language that is hardly used anymore. While it's taught to all Carvations at a young age traditionally, all Carvations learn English so as to prepare if they go to live amongst humans, as many do. Most Carvations talk casually in English, and their writing and signs are also in the language. Even so, the language has interesting properties in it. If you translated, Carvation letters could equate very closely to English actually, lining up letter for letter, but also including the symbols for the phonic sounds th, ch, and sh. How it's said by the tongue, on the other hand, is much more intricate to explain. It would serve better for you to go to the library and find a textbook on the subject. This language is mainly outdated to modern Carvation use, but it's good to know just in case it's needed. There's many examples of Carvation slang and common sayings in these modern times, which is important to understanding their speech today. Below are some common instances of slang and phrases in Carvation culture. Going for a fly or taking a flaunt. Being ignored or ditched is nicked. Half Carvations are sometimes called bybloods. Dead variants can sometimes be called carvans. Are Carvations underweight enough to lack magic are psychons? Some rules of the language are: when two of the same symbols that begin with vowels and contain a consonant are together, they merge into one. When two of the same vowels without consonants are together, it becomes a or e, depending on the vowel used. When writing symbols, apostrophes are not used. When two consonants are next to each other at the start of a word, they are split. Example, naka or vaka. Perhaps if you want me to elaborate on how to speak Carvation in another video, you can request so down below, and I will give you all a lesson. But that is it for now for the Study of Carvations book. Perhaps another installment will come again, but for now, study up, and thank you for your time.